So I'm sure you guys probably do not actually know this, but Obito is actually my favorite character in the entire Naruto franchise, other than maybe Itachi. However, Obito has always actually been hated on in this community, or at least as long as I've been in the Naruto community, since 2 years ago roughly, which to this day people still they still underestimate the true might of the masked man. And here I want to delve into a very broad and complex topic in a video that I've had planned for quite a while now. How strong is Obito Uchiha? So to keep this video fairly well organized, I'll be going through each stage of his life in chronological order, or at least generally speaking. The sections for this will be in order of Prologue, Yellow Mask, Orange Mask, White Mask, Juubito, and then finally to end it off, DMS Obito. And so yeah, if you just want to listen to a singular part, I should have the timestamps down in the description or here on screen. However, I do obviously recommend you watch the entire video to understand how strong Obito truly is. Obito Uchiha in his youth years was always narratively portrayed to be a dunce who is always lacking behind the child prodigy, Kakashi Hatake, who was literally a Chunin at 6, Jonin at 10, and an Anbu Black Ops member at 13 years old, which is absolutely crazy, so no wonder why Obito lacked behind him. So the way that people downplay him through that is kind of weird. But even with this though, while they're both 13 years old, we still see that Obito was able to catch a few higher level shinobi, probably Jonin, off guard, and unlock his 2 Tomoe Sharingan. However, as I mentioned earlier, we don't really have much from this stage, and this is definitely the most vague stage of his life. Though Obito does end up dying and sacrificing himself to, save Kakashi, and give him the iconic Sharingan that he's going to show for the rest of the manga. But, as we all know, this wasn't going to be the last time we saw our beloved granny-saving hero, as he'd be picked up and rescued by the cynical Madara Uchiha, and Madara would end up nursing Obito back to health, giving him an entire other half of his body, which would be aided by Zetsu, allowing Obito to go on a complete rampage of the Mist Platoon and Black Ops Shinobi, which Obito demonstrated a new level of profound power, which is pretty much completely shown via him being able to crush the skulls of these elite ninja with just his bare fists alone. And that's not even all, as Obito would use his new wood-style capability to shove giant tree roots through the stomachs, covering them in blood of these Anbu shinobi, or the Mist Anbu. Now, yes, some will say that these shinobi have no feats and are nothing but fodder, which is inherently true. However, I do believe that Kishimoto was certainly trying to convey to us that Obito is no longer the little kid who could barely use a shadow clone and is barely even keeping up with Kakashi, and is now potentially even on that Kage level threat, or at least that high Jonin tier to the Anbu level threat. But moving on from that, Obito would train under Madara for at least 6 months to hone his skills with Kamui, Genjutsu, and presumably other taijutsu and ninjutsu techniques. Maybe Madara was the one that, suggested the change to Obito whenever he used Yellow Mask, which brings me to my next section, Yellow Mask Obito. Now, Yellow Mask Obito is actually probably my favorite version, and honestly one of the most straightforward showings of Obito within his forms. And with that though, this does not mean that it's still not heavily downplayed. And the reason as to why this Obito is downplayed is, well, let's be honest, it's this panel right here, which I'll get into in a second. But first I want to go over all the amps that Obito actually has. So he's actually so amped by Zetsu in this fight that we see after tanking Minato's Rasengan, his arm literally just falls off and grows back. Not to mention he's been honing his new body, which is, half Hashirama, by the way. So this form of Obito is actually kind of crazy. And he's actually able to put the full Kurama under his complete control with just one single 3 Tomoe Sharingan. This would be something that's actually stated that he would not be able to do once he has Orange Mask. So Yellow Mask might actually be stronger than Orange Mask, at least in that regard. Which, this is also would be the same type of genjutsu that he would try to use against Minato, and a lot of the other things that he used in his other crazy genjutsu feats would all just be done by his 3 Tomoe Sharingan. However, it should be noted that the reason Obito obviously only uses his base Sharingan is because, obviously, if Kishimoto were to display his Mangekyo, it'd be completely identical to Kakashi's, and instantly would just reveal who Obito actually is. So that is why 3 Tomoe Yellow Mask Obito might actually be stronger than Orange Mask Obito. And, the same reason why he'd be able to do all this crazy stuff with just a 3 Tomoe Sharingan. And, all this is crazy. It means that Obito was able to go toe-to-toe with Hokage Minato with just a 3 Tomoe Sharingan, and was implied to be holding back almost against Minato. And, well, why do I say this? Well, when Obito almost sucks Minato into Kamui, and Minato barely escapes due to him literally being the fastest shinobi at this point, Obito states, quote, "so fast, I'll just have to take him in much quicker next time, as soon as we touch," end quote. So this kind of gives the idea that Obito was actually holding back on Minato, or at least the transfer speed was being held back. And it's not really an egregious thing either, as we know that Minato is his former sensei, and as we saw with, similar to like Minato and Orochimaru, with Orochimaru being with Hiruzen, Orochimaru was literally slicing his hand open to get himself to kill Hiruzen. However, I do think that Obito just kind of believed that he was faster than Minato, or that Minato wouldn't actually be able to escape, and that Minato was just faster than what he probably expected, and just moved at a faster pace later. Which is indeed shown, as we can see that Obito then caught Minato in his chains, and the only reason why Minato was actually able to ever escape this was due to his teleportation. Minato then states, "For one of us, it'll be over in an instant." Which, this is Minato pretty much just saying that it'll be over instantly, and it kind of just depends if Obito is fast enough to suck him in before Minato can activate the two-step flying Raijin. And, however, we all know the outcome of this. However, it should be noted that Obito got right back up immediately after tanking their Rasengan. Oh, and not to mention, they were also running at the same speed, which is kind of crazy if you consider Minato's speed at the time. And I mean, look at the damage of the Rasengan that he tanked. My boy's spine was a focal point of that, right? Now, I did mention that Obito was holding back, which could be true, but another thing we know in this interaction, I really don't see enough people talk about, quite frankly, and it's the fact that Obito was still controlling the entire Nine Tails during this fight, draining his chakra. And so, yeah, give 14 Obito his credit. 14 Obito is he's really a monster. So just imagine, right? As we know what happens when the Nine Tails fights Minato, it's usually never good for Minato. So imagine if he had to fight Obito and the Nine Tails. So, all at 14, may I mind you. Now, the last thing I really need to discuss in this form is the KCM2 narrative argument that's been floating around. So, let's talk about it. So, this whole argument kind of comes when Minato interacts with Naruto and states something along the lines of, yeah, Pain, he may have killed Jiraiya. However, it's that mask guy, that one. Yeah, you should really be worried about him, and you're going to need some really extraordinary power to beat him. And that's why I entrusted you with Kurama. Now, yes, when Minato stated this, Naruto actually imagines Orange Mask Obito in his head, similar to Minato, which I'll digress into this section now. So yeah, Orange Mask was actually the variation that Naruto was thinking about. However, Minato fought Yellow Mask, so it wouldn't be narratively working for Orange Mask, since Minato knows the power of Yellow Mask, not the Orange Mask. And he's basing this solely off of objective power, so it should be taken that Yellow Mask Obito, which, as I mentioned, was amped against Minato via Zetsu by an unquantifiable margin. However, it should be, it was a very significant amp, as we saw his arm fall off. However, Orange Mask Obito has 15 years of more experience, but we do know that it's stated that he cannot control the full Kurama, or Kurama in general, as he once did. So it's kind of like a good hypothesis that I always imagine this as. So Minato is setting a benchmark as, okay, Obito will get stronger to this certain degree, this mask guy, because he's already posing this much of a threat to me, so I'm assuming that he's going to keep growing in power, but we know that's just not the case, so there's no reason for that. And not to mention that Minato probably doesn't actually know how strong a KCM2 Kurama cloak would actually even be, so it's all really baseless. So yeah, if you can't tell, this argument is just simply way too vague and relies on far too many assumptions for me to really hop on that train, I guess you will. So digressing from that, however, the difference between Yellow Mask and Orange Mask is kind of the answer to that would just be Yellow Mask has Kurama, the chains, and crazy Zetsu amps, and Orange Mask has 14 years of experience and potentially a weaker Genjutsu that we know from that Kurama statement, and he does have Izanagi, however, but you can argue in the comments about who you think's stronger, if you think the experience does kind of keep him back on that level or whatnot, and still is a Hokage Minato level threat. Which, I mean, it is still crazy, as Orange Mask Obito is still able to put a perfect Jinchuriki, being Yagura, under complete control for literally years on end. So, and, that's right, you guessed it. It was just one 3-Tomoe Sharingan, as shown in his interaction with Kisame, and this would be a very early era of Orange Mask Obito, so this would be, he still has the 10 tails on his mask, and not actually the Kamui swirl yet, but it's still that orange color, so it's still new. So this Obito is probably really not much older than Yellow Mask. But yeah, Obito's Genjutsu is still crazy regardless of him not having all the amps. And it's also stated that it's impossible to put a perfect Jinchuriki under Genjutsu, and he was able to do it with the full Kurama. Now, one thing I need to say before moving on is that in this form Obito, in like the Toby version, it's by far the most downplayed version of Obito, in which some people actually believe that the 6 Paths of Pain or the clan killer Itachi could actually just maul Obito into pieces and that Obito is just a fraud. However, I go over most of those arguments in my How Strong is Itachi video on TikTok, and I have it on YouTube, and I recommend you check that out. However, starting off with Pain, Minato directly states that, yeah, Pain is strong and all, but Obito is the real threat, and that's not all. Obito and Pain's goals, do not align. Like they just don't even remotely align, in the sense that Obito wants to get all the Biju and create Project Suki no Mi to create a world full of dreams, and Pain wants to have all the Biju to act as a large threat, similar like a nuke, that could just unite the world under fear and pain. And by the way, Pain knows about all that, and Obito's like, hey Pain, go get Naruto and Nine Tails for me, will you? And Pain's like, huh, sounds good. Like, what? Maybe Pain is under the idea that he could that he and Obito could capture all the Biju, and then that Pain would just kill Obito prior to Obito using them for the Ten Tails resurrection. And that does make sense if you think how Konan was studying him for literally years, and that wouldn't be necessary if they didn't have something planned, and I doubt Konan was going to go behind Pain's back to do something like that. So it was probably pretty likely that they actually might try to catch him off guard and kill him. Which, I don't actually really think that Pain would be capable of beating Obito in a fight. However, Pain is actually regarded as the strongest man in the Akatsuki, and is practically able to solo the entire Leaf Village, plus Sage Naruto, which, to put in perspective, it's 1/5 of the entire Shinobi Alliance that he beat. And so yeah, if y'all want a video of Pain, let me know, because he's actually a monster, and I'd actually be very happy to discuss that. However, the Itachi arguments are far more complicated than the Pain ones in the sense of a narrative. Now, 2 panels you'll always see when discussing this matchup are these 2. And let's start with the right panel, as it's much easier to talk about, and taking this statement at face value, quote, now that Itachi is dead, the Leaf Village is no longer off limits. And it would really be hard to come to the conclusion that, yeah, Obito thought Itachi could kill him, and just yet no. Obito saying this is in reference to the pact that he made to Itachi, and that if Itachi joined the Akatsuki, he wouldn't touch the Leaf Village. So yeah, literally, this would just be Obito keeping his word, and seriously, Obito knew that Itachi was going to die very soon, as he stated when he was talking to Pain. So Obito had 2 choices. Send Pain to the Leaf Village and ravage the place to hell and capture Naruto, and have Itachi backstab the rest of the Akatsuki by either killing most of their really strong members or leaking really crucial information about the Akatsuki, or even just telling the world that Madara Uchiha is alive. And the other option would be to just wait a couple months or even a couple weeks and let him die. So, yeah, keeping the pact and sending Pain to Konoha, and the other panel would just be, the statement where Obito states in his head, quote, if Itachi knew everything about me, I'd be dead. Which is again taken out of context and is in reference to the Amaterasu being placed on him. And I have an entire TikTok on whether Obito uses Izanagi or Kamui, but it doesn't really matter. So Itachi pretty much planted his eyes into Sasuke's and planted the Amaterasu, and so it would fire when it sees Obito's Sharingan. Now, the problem with this is the main Itachi argument would be Itachi blitzes Obito's passive intangibility, and it's just wrong. And it's literally because Obito is forcing himself to be tangible to show when he shows Sasuke his Sharingan. He literally moves his mask to the other side of his face, and then Obito got caught off guard with the Amaterasu, and then survived via Kamuing it away or coming back with Izanagi. Either way, we see in the 5 Kage Summit that version 2A is able to dodge the Amaterasu, and Obito's actual intangibility is obviously far above him in speed, again, right here. So it's really just pushing the idea that Obito isn't a blitz level slower than the Amaterasu. Now, another thing that has to be put into perspective when discussing Itachi and Obito is the fact that all of Itachi's problems would deadass be solved if he just killed Obito. Now, we know that Itachi has thought of this idea actually at one point, as shown in the second Itachi Shinen novel, where Obito provides the question, quote, "Could you kill me?" And Itachi states, "It's not a matter of if I can or not, I will kill you." And Obito didn't even respond, and they both lowered their gaze and acknowledged each other as opponents. And while this doesn't really do anything, or all that much at least, for Itachi, in the fact that it lets us know that Itachi would be either capable of potentially killing Obito via unknown means, such as a plan, or such as the Amaterasu that he put into Sasuke, that would be very consistent. So let me ask you this: if Itachi needs to snake Obito in order to kill him in these sorts of ways, is he really stronger than Obito? No. Itachi is weaker than Obito, and Obito is probably the strongest man. No, not probably. Obito is the strongest man in the Akatsuki, and honestly, at this point, the strongest man in the world. So, for many reasons, such as Kamui, or his infamous techniques in this era, such as the Izanagi, Obito versus Konan is the most clear-cut showing of that ability that I'd like to digress into now. Now, Obito versus Konan really shows how much of a monster Obito truly is. And because in the Itachi and Pain case, Obito kind of just counters their abilities with Kamui, such as Chobaku Tensei, he can just go through it, or the Amaterasu, which he can just, get through how he did prior, and, as long as he's off guard. But Konan studied Obito for years, and years on end, somewhere around 5 to 10 years at least. So, Konan studied how Kamui worked and figured out how Obito's self-transportation speed is the slowest aspect of Kamui, how he can only stay in Kamui for 5 minutes, in which, Konan directly countered all of these by creating an entire ocean of 600 billion, yes, this number, 600 billion paper bombs that would explode on Obito for 10 minutes straight. Now, Konan believed that she had just saved the world from pure evil, as she stated. But Konan was wrong, all because of one ability, the Izanagi. Obito, with his arm ripped off, strangled Konan to death because she didn't have a counter to this ability. Now, to my next section, White Mask Obito. Now, it's actually kind of atrocious that a majority of the entire Naruto community believe that White Mask Obito is the same strength as Orange Mask Obito with just Rinnegan abilities, and that's stupidly wrong, as we get numerous statements, including ones from Obito himself, explicitly stating that the Rinnegan has so much immense chakra that he almost actually lost his mind, or others such as these chapter synopsis statements that state a similar thing. So yeah, the Rinnegan, and especially Rinnegan Obito, is literally no joke, as he stated equal in overwhelming power to Edo Madara in the 4th data book, and is also shown equal to him through different panels such as these, when their fire style attacks, in which Obito's fire style actually goes a farther distance than Madara's did. Or how about these in their projectile attacks, which what separates White Mask Obito from Edo Madara is Kamui. And since Kamui is a blitz level above Obito, and Madara is shown when Lee and the Rasen Shuriken were moving at the same speed, and Madara got absolutely ran through, while Obito just phased through it. Now, not to mention, though, that Obito actually shows feats against KCM2 Naruto, and is very much capable of catching KCM2 Naruto, outspeeding him, reacting to him. This would be the same Naruto that's able to blitz Madara's Susanoo, and it kind of, again, just supports the idea that this White Mask Obito is faster than this Madara. That they would just be relative in strength, or what have you not. And if you want to bring abilities into this, I mean, Obito has 6 Jinchuriki at his disposal, who are all perception amped via Rinnegan and Sharingan projections. This amp allows them to be at least KCM 1 level, and, in their two-tail state alone. So imagine them at full Bijou power. And this would be very helpful for Obito to catch, Madara off guard if they were to fight, or just to catch people in general, and simply overwhelm them with sheer speed and power. Now, by far, the biggest downplay of Obito that he gets is his interaction with Kakashi, which is utterly stupid, and not for the reason that Kakashi is weak, and if you watch my TikToks, you know that I certainly don't believe this. War Kakashi is an absolute animal. He's able to blitz KCM 1, KCM 2 with Kamui, and even later in the war, he's able to outspeed KCM 2 Minato to Zetsu, blitz stage Minato's Rasengan with Kamui, and I mean, just Kakashi in the wars, he's just no joke. He's just no joke. He's just that guy. Now, one thing that Obito did lose since getting the Rinnegan would be his Izanagi, and he does still have it, but I doubt he would ever use it in terms of sacrificing his Kamui Eye. But, however much the Rinnegan amplified his durability, Obito was able to tank 2 instant death attacks and fight for 2 days on end, spam Kamui, all that good stuff, so I really don't think Obito losing Izanagi is actually a huge deal. Especially considering just how good his intangibility and durability is, so White Mask Obito is an Akatsuki soloing threat and an absolute monster to say the least. However, he's not as big as a monster, literally and metaphorically, as when he becomes Juubito. Now, on to Juubito. However, the big thing about Juubito is we need to understand what the Ten Tails is. So the Ten Tails is essentially the original beast. The Ten Tails is all of the 9 Bijuu put together into one continent-destroying monster, and is literally pure chakra, so which Obito actually absorbs all of this chakra. So think about how much half the Nine Tails is. Then think about the full Nine Tails, and the full Nine Tails isn't even comparable to the Ten Tails. And yeah, so Obito absorbed, more commonly referred to in this form, by this point is a whole different breed than his White Mask self, who is considered by several to be the strongest man on the battlefield, to which now he certainly is. Even Hashirama stated that Juubito far surpassed him just by seeing his existence in chakra. This would be the same Hashirama that's able to equal and overwhelm Edo Madara. However, Sage Hashirama still busts out the gracious deity gates and attempts to hold down Juubito, which these gates were more than capable of holding down the entire Ten Tails at once. However, in the face of something like Juubito, they are all shattered and blown to pieces, even on one focal point. Now, without even Juubito having to move, may I mind you. Now, right after this, Juubito, I kid you not, physically grabs onto the 4 Crimson Ray barrier and just rips that shit down. This is the exact same barrier that is actually being held by all of the Hokage and is literally no joke. Juubito has just shown us one thing. He is the strongest man on this battlefield. However, Juubito has, isn't even really Obito anymore, and especially at this point, it's just the Ten Tails. We get this whenever Minato calls out to Obito, and he is like, Obito? And doesn't even recognize his own name. Now, some believe that this wouldn't really have an effect in power, and it'd be similar to KCM1, where he just is not able to control it, but he's still at full power. However, it most certainly would, as we know that chakra is correlated to power, and Juubito can't properly formulate his chakra and his chakra control, so the chakra wouldn't be near as refined and focused to certain points, so his attacks wouldn't be at their utmost. So even with lacking complete control over this body, he's still able to react to speed demons such as KCM2 Minato. He's able to murder Blitz Hiruzen, EMS Sasuke, KCM 1.5 Naruto. So yeah, even the weakest version of Juubito is still a monster. However, to further emphasize his power, and the difference between the power, is we get to see that Juubito tries to blitz Hashirama and Tobirama, and Tobirama actually blitzes him by placing at least 4 paper bombs on his right arm, left leg, left side of his abdomen, and also a Flying Thunder God seal on his armpit. However, once Juubito gains complete control of the Ten Tails, he was then able to combat, perceive, and react to Tobirama rather casually, only ever being blitzed by the literal teleportation, obviously. This Juubito also has access to True Seeking Orbs, which are one of the most busted abilities in the entire series, as they are essentially an orb with all nature release properties, and when an incoming attack is moving towards Juubito, he just uses these TSOs to automatically use the opposite combination of releases to nullify the incoming attack. So these are also direct existence erasure, as shown whenever Juubito blitzes KCM Minato and rips his arm off. And I mean, these can also just straight up tank blunt force on the level of Tobirama's legendary tandem paper bombs, which scale or even the gracious deity gates and the full power gracious deity gates in destructive capacity. So yeah, if you don't believe it now, it should be crystal clear that Juubito is the strongest character in the world at this point, other than potentially Might Guy if he uses the 8 gates, which has not been shown yet. But the only problem with that matchup would be, 8-gate guy, he's able to keep up and damage Ten Tails Madara. However, Madara wasn't really going all out and was just screaming and laughing. Not to mention, though, that Juubito may actually just be able to kill a guy before he'd ever open the 8th gate if they were on a battlefield. And, so maybe other than that exception, Juubito is certainly the strongest man here. And, the only real downside to Juubito would be him no longer be able to use Kamui, since he can't phase the Ten Tails and what the Ten Tails body is made of, at least that much chakra and mass. And, let's be honest, this is certainly a writer cop-out like here. And, so imagine this, right? We have Juubito, who is a blitz level above everybody, and then we give him subconscious intangibility beyond that. That's a blitz level above that speed. Like, seriously, Ishiki himself, the god of the Otsutsuki, was annoyed by Sasuke's Iminote Chikara. So imagine if he had to deal with Kamui. Now, DMS Obito. Now, let's get one thing straight before I even get into this. Durumangekyo Obito is no joke and is by far the strongest version of Obito Uchiha. Which, some of you are like, what the hell? But you just talked about Juubito. And yes, I know. Juubito is very strong and is a monster in his own right, but he's nowhere near DMS Obito, and most people don't even know how strong DMS Obito is. And, let's be honest, I'm pretty sure most of us just glossed over all of this and paid attention to his death only, and not actually all of his great feats. But I'm going to go into all of them here. So starting off with the first thing we need to address is how Obito would just win a fight. And that's really simple. Obito would just win via Kamui or battlefield removal, or just Kamuing the opponent's head off. So the main aspect would just be speed or perception speed, and maybe his reaction speed. So Obito was able to blitz Kaguya and Naruto's clones who were in 6-pass Sage mode, as shown when Obito was able to blitz Kaguya, who is heading towards her portal, or the other instance when Naruto pretends to be trapped, causing Kaguya to move at full speed and try to kill Naruto, to which Obito blitzes her again via Kamui. Now, Obito is also capable of outspeeding her Eminonaka rods, her ash bones, as shown when Kaguya shoots them and Obito reacts to them with Kamui to save Kakashi. These would be the same rods that are able to blitz and off-guard one of Naruto's 6-pass Sage Mode clones. The same clones that would more than likely be relative in power to him, and this is consistent, because once they enter her dimension initially, Obito is shown running on par with Naruto and Sasuke and Kakashi, and is even actually ahead of Naruto when they are running, so Obito is on the verge of death. So imagine this, Obito at full power, which some can argue that a full power DMS Obito would be on the level of DMS Kakashi, or stronger, since their bases, Obito was stronger, so the amps are the exact same, so obviously he would be stronger than Kakashi, and Kakashi literally just got over, Obito's leftover power, so he should definitely be over Kakashi in that regard, and would be capable of blitzing Kaguya via, this would be the same Kaguya that Kakashi blitzes that's exponentially stronger than her previous self. And her previous self was still able to completely overpower a full power boil release Sage Mode Naruto, or 6-pass Sage Mode Naruto, Obito also may even be able to use the Susanoo, since those are obviously his eyes, and he may have just not had the chakra to do it. And so imagine that, Obito with DMS using the Susanoo, it's insane. Kamui Shuriken, definitely one of the most potent abilities in the entire Naruto series. So, to conclude all of this, DMS Obito is his strongest form, is an absolute animal. So, yeah, I do feel like I kind of covered everything here. However, there may be something that you guys may feel that I left out that's crucial to this, so you guys could just let me know in the comments below. Maybe what video you guys want to see next would also be kind of cool, and I do have several planned, such as Kisame versus Tobirama, and yeah, so be on the lookout for that. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and make sure to like and subscribe, or follow me for watching this on TikTok, and it helped me out a lot. Love you guys.